Hello and thanks for joining me. This is Putting It Bluntly for WWE Extreme Rules 2021. The first match on the card was the kickoff show between Liv Morgan and Carmella. Now, although they probably don't appreciate being on the kickoff show, you'll see later on with the match card graphics, at least you can see them, because WWE are getting a little bit over the top with all the sponsors. This was quite a decent match for these two. A lot of people would dismiss them just simply because the two blondes in pretty much their underwear / lingerie rolling around and squawking at each other. Carmella is very good at mocking the crowd. She's a lot better on the mic than she is in the ring. She knows what she needs to do, the execution isn't there. Liv Morgan, on the other hand, she's young, she's green, but she's getting better and she's learning new things. And they both tried, they put on a decent match. And they even had a little bit of psychology and storytelling in there, which is more than could be said for some people elsewhere. The first match on the main card was conveniently put together on the kickoff show, and even more conveniently, they had match graphic ready for me to steal and use right now. It was a 6-man tag between the New Day, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles and Omos. It was a good opening match. Everybody knew how to play to the crowd, everybody knew what they were doing, or in Omos' case at least he had people around him to tell him where to be and what to do. AJ and Big E seemed like quite a big bit of the focus of the match at one point. They had a good little squaring off. And then eventually a miscommunication between Lashley and AJ led to Big E hitting the big ending on Lashley, and the New Day won. This next charitable segment is brought to you by Stephanie McMahon's philanthropic tweet. And now we go from WWE pretending to care to WWE showing that they obviously don't give a crap. As we've got Drunky and Jey Uso, yes that's Drunky and Jey Uso, the tag team champions, got Drunky and Jey Uso versus the Street Profits. Montez Ford was assaulted before this match and he had his ribs taped up. And Angelo Dawkins is in angry bear mode because he's just been a happy chappy for now. All throughout the match, the Usos worked on Ford's ribs, which was to be expected, and they finished it off with a double splash off the top. It was a good contest. It's just a shame about how dirty the Usos, one half of the Usos are. And I know a lot of people have just gone, oh yeah, just forget about it now, it's just a program, it's just entertainment, but it gives off the wrong message when they're trying to promote other messages of being a decent person and not being a drunk driving wanker that endangers the lives of yourself and other people. Just saying. Bobby Lashley now just gets pissed off even more, and I'm loving angry Bobby Lashley. This last year of Lashley has been fantastic. Why they took the belt off him, it's good on Big E, but it was better on Lashley. Anyway, Lashley's challenged Big E to a match at Raw to get his belt back. Like I say, he's pissed off. That doesn't look right. There we go, that's better. We move on to the Raw Women's Championship, a match between Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, which there wasn't any special effects of fancy spooky bollocks in this match, but do not fear, that's coming later on. This was just a pretty straightforward match between Charlotte and Alexa. Charlotte did end up throwing Alexa's doll at her, which distracted her, which was the closest to spooky natural silliness, but that was about it. Throughout the match, Charlotte tried to keep Bliss down, but she couldn't. And she eventually hit her with the big boot and the natural selection for the win. Simple stuff. Yeah, that is the doll that Charlotte ripped to pieces after the match, which just led Alexa Bliss to having a little tantrum, crying. And it looks like she's adding to a highlight reel now for any movies or TV or whatever she's looking for. She got that excited for a good old night, she thought she'd put, yeah, look at that, she's tripping balls. Lovely. What isn't lovely is Booker T whoring himself, once again, for some themed commercial. This is painful. I've mentioned so many times now, and it's just getting worse each time. It starts off with one advert per bloody pay-per-view with a wrestler doing silly little tricks for another company. Or Vince, obviously. But no, I understand Booker T is obviously going to get some money for this, but it shouldn't be him out here acting like a clown. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's whose fault it is. Although I do like this salesman gimmick. Paul Heyman is fantastic. His chemistry with Kayla has been brilliant for now. She loves catching Heyman out when he's up to dirty deeds. This next match is the first match that's technically an Extreme Rules match, simply because it's a triple threat and there are no rules, so there's no disqualification in this. Not much to say really. Damian Priest won. Him and Jeff Hardy had quite an amount of respect for each other. Sheamus was just obviously the obnoxious prick. The crowd ate up all the near falls at the end. Sheamus bro-kicked Hardy, but Priest rolled up Sheamus for the win. Oh yeah, and this is the first time I've noticed that Jeff Hardy's now been allowed to mark out for himself with his own theme music where he's singing along. Big E didn't appreciate being called a chicken shit by Bobby Lashley, and he accepts the challenge for Monday. Yeah, are you gambling yet? Gamble. And while you're at it, fill yourself with a load of caffeine and whatever other shite's in a load of energy drinks. You know, it's obviously really healthy stuff for you, and these guys, they're interested in your health and not just making money. Smile. And we move on to the SmackDown Women's Championship between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. The crowd were well into this. Becky Lynch is so good as a chicken shit. She was getting really obnoxious as a face, to the point of just everybody wanted to boo her anyway, even though everybody loved her. But she worked a decent match with Belair. Every opportunity Becky had, she'd pull the hair, she'd tie it up, she'd tie it around the ropes, and she'd just cheat and be a sneaky little weaselly bastard like her husband. After it looked like Bianca was going to win the match, there was an interruption by Sasha Banks which caused a disqualification. And although Becky thought she'd escape the night without getting too much of a beating, it wasn't going to happen. Sasha just laid her out like she does to everybody, so that was to be expected. We've got the draft coming up, which obviously Vince's new lick of paint mentality. Just... Did you start gambling yet? Did you go on there and get your free gambling stuff? Come on, chop chop. And now it's time for the main event, an Extreme Rules match. Which I'm a little torn, to be fair, because when they have Hell in a Cell and they call the whole pay-per-view Hell in a Cell and there's 3 matches of Hell in a Cell, it's overdone and you're fed up with the third Hell in the Cell by the time the third Hell in the Cell comes around. And you're sick of me saying Hell in a Cell now, so am I. The point is, they'd normally do an Extreme Rules and have all the matches with stipulations, whereas now they've technically only got 1 match with a stipulation, and one of the other matches was a triple threat, so there was no rules. It's a bit confusing, and I don't know where my head's going. At least Finn Balor actually came here to make some sense tonight. Normally, one of my biggest criticisms with his demon persona is that nothing changes. His moveset's the same, his mannerisms the same, but tonight was different. He had a couple of slightly different things, with eye gouging and back raking, etc. A couple of new growls that he wouldn't normally do when he's not made up. Finn had even made himself a quadruple kendo stick, which was just 4 of them taped together with his colours, but the crowd were gagging for a table. Every time Finn came close to getting a table ready, Reigns had shut it down and the crowd hated him for it. Brilliant. The pair ended up going into the crowd at one point, which there was a moment Roman Reigns put a mask on and I thought it reverted back to Dean Ambrose's germaphobe period. But then I obviously remembered Roman's leukemia, so that made sense, but it was a nice touch. It just made him look like a twat for a second, but then you go, yeah, no, he's not much of a twat. They did make their way back into the ring and use the table, which the crowd enjoyed, but then the Usos came down to save the day. But as they saved Roman from losing his belt there and then, Balor just turned and absolutely annihilated them both. Roman would spear Balor through a barricade, but then everyone was down and everyone was KO'd and it looked like we were going to get a no contest. Until... that fucking red light from The Fiend's days. This whole thing has leftover ideas from The Fiend written all over it. So here's what happened. Everybody was dead, everybody was KO'd, it looked like the match was going to end there and then and that nothing could be done. Finn's music, the heartbeat from his theme song, started to play. Every time the heart beated, Finn would convulse. Eventually, Finn got back on his feet, completely rejuvenated. The crowd were convinced that that was it, Finn was going to win the belt. He rolled Roman into the ring, went for the coup de grace. As he was on the top rope, for some reason, the top turnbuckle broke, Finn fell down into the ring and the lights went. Roman hit a spear, 3 count and done, and that's the end of that. I'm not quite sure where they're going with this now. Roman and the Usos were pointing up, sorry, that's Roman and Drunky and Jey Uso, Drunky and Jey Uso, were pointing up, trying to give the impression that there's some kind of higher power involved. The guys on the commentary table gave some kind of impression as well. I'm really not sure where they're going. I don't know if this has got anything to do with Alexa Bliss from earlier on, or if they're just coming up with an idea to bring The Undertaker back for one time only at Blood Money, because he likes to have about 10 different last rides now. If it was something to do with The Undertaker, whom obviously respects Roman Reigns, I'm guessing it is going to be to do with Finn Balor as well. I wouldn't put all my money on it, but not everybody stays retired when they get a big bag of money put under the nose. I'm looking forward to this tomorrow. I'm expecting Big E to retain, but I'd really like Bobby Lashley to get his belt back because he was just absolutely killing it. All in all, it wasn't a bad pay-per-view to be fair. The ending let it down, but a lot of everything else was enjoyable. Even Alexa Bliss refrained from doing anything stupid and supernatural this time, but I suspect a retaliation to Charlotte for ripping a doll to pieces is... I'm sure it's going to be painful. I'm not quite sure where they're going with Finn Balor now. It's interesting to me that WWE would pay him attention. and give them a main event spot when AEW is starting to come on the rise a bit more, and they are obviously on WWE's radar now. It might be a little bit too little too late for Finn though. They've had him on the roster for absolute years, and even Finn's looked absolutely bored to pissing tears for many of those. And that's enough out of me for the time being. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can like, share and comment on this video. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter @BluntDamage. You can go and find me on Twitch /DannyBluntDamage and wait for me to get my arse into gear and do something over there. You could also support me on Ko-fi /DannyDamage. You can find me on Geeks and Gamers on a Monday, where I do another week of wrestling. You can go to dannydamage.co.uk and see numerous articles, videos and such that I do there. I've recently done an article called Putting It Bluntly, How to Play Video Games. I've also previously done a How to Use Your Phone, Why I Got Banned from Twitter, Vince McMahon vs Bob Hare, the Women's Rumbled Revolution, the spoiler world we live in, and much more. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.